Hi, and welcome to Get Ready, Get Healthy. I'm Doug Spangler, your host. On today's show, we'll take you on location to a local refinery to get a first-hand look at how Contra Costa Health Services hazardous materials programs work to keep us safe. Today, we'll take you inside a local refinery and we'll follow a hazmat inspector as she conducts a safety inspection. We'll also learn about the various programs in the hazmat division and about the Industrial Safety Ordinance. But most importantly, we'll tell you how you can get involved. So stay with us because later on we're going to have some important phone numbers that we want to give you. As we all know, Contra Costa County is home to numerous refineries and chemical plants. With the risks associated with accidental emissions, this became a great concern for county residents who mobilized and voiced their concerns. Their efforts were not in vain. In December 1998, the Board of Supervisors approved the Industrial Safety Ordinance, and then the City of Richmond passed the Industrial Safety Ordinance in December of 2000. The Industrial Safety Ordinance, or ISO, serves many purposes, including the prevention of accidental release of hazardous chemicals and improves accident prevention. The ordinance requires refineries and chemical facilities to submit a safety plan. It also requires the hazardous materials programs to conduct audits of the safety plans and to do inspections of the facilities. The inspections completed by the hazmat programs help to ensure that refineries and other petroleum and chemical facilities in the county are operating in a manner that reduces the risk of releases in our community. All in all, Contra Costa gains safer facilities and communities because of the Industrial Safety Ordinance. And now before we go on our safety inspection, I'd like to introduce you to our studio guests, Dr. William Walker and Randy Sawyer, who are here to provide us with even more information about the hazardous materials programs and the Industrial Safety Ordinance. Dr. William Walker is the Director of Contra Costa Health Services and the County Health Officer. He's board certified in family practice and geriatric medicine, and he served the Contra Costa Health Services Department for over 25 years. Welcome to the show, Dr. Walker.
Thank you, Doug. I'm glad
to have you. Yeah. Randy Sawyer is the Hazardous Materials Programs Director and has served the county in the Hazardous Material Program for more than 13 years. He's also been the supervisor of the Accidental Release Prevention Program for the past 3 years. Welcome to the show, Randy.
Thanks a lot, Doug.
Yeah. Now, we're going to be going on a safety inspection a little bit later, but I want to ask you what other kinds of programs does the Hazardous Materials Division actually do?
Well, you'll see as you do the inspections, we do what we call business plan inspections, where we look at the amount of inventory of hazardous materials they have on site and the emergency response and how they train the people to respond appropriately to emergencies. Mm-hmm. There's also a program we have for hazardous waste generators, how make sure they handle the hazardous waste properly. We also have other programs like the Green Business Program, which works with businesses who actually have a very good programs in place. They follow the regulations. They're cut above in a lot of ways in the way they operate their business. We also work with the Public Works on stormwater drainage and making sure that's clean and everything. We also have the California Accidental Release Prevention Program, which is very close to what the Industrial Safety Ordinance, where the main purpose of those is to prevent accidents from occurring. And we also have underground storage tanks to make sure that they don't leak and they're installed properly.
Wow. That's quite a lot. You must have a big staff to be able to do all of that.
I have a very good staff.
Good, yeah. And this is all countywide. I mean, things are throughout the county.
We cover the whole county. We're what we call the CUPA, Certified Unified Program Agency for the county. So we cover the whole county, and we're required to have the facilities are required to have these programs in place.
And your department is actual with the county public health department.
That's well, with health services.
Health services, yes. Okay. Dr. Walker, I mentioned earlier about the Industrial Safety Ordinance. I had to make sure I said that right. What is that all about? Can you explain a little bit about what that is?
Well, it has a bit of a history, Doug. I've been health officer for Contra Costa County for about 24 years. And during that time, we've had a number of major chemical releases from the number of chemical plants and refineries around the county, a number of major refinery fires. Mm-hmm. And Randy's mentioned a number of the programs that we've used over the years, that mainly federal and state programs, to try to get at the safety issues in those facilities. And during the late 90s, I think it became evident not only to our health department, since we were, from the point of view of health, looking out for the the residents of the community, but also to our Board of Supervisors that there were gaps in those programs. And the Industrial Safety Ordinance is really meant to fill those gaps, to develop a more comprehensive safety and inspection program at the local level, which could be administered by our Board of Supervisors and carried out by the Health Services staff. And I think what we've done is filled in some of the gaps that existed between state and federal regulation and also provide local accountability for those facilities in terms of their safety.
And I think what I'd like to add a little bit onto that is basically this program is really in the forefront, what any other place in the country is doing. And there's a lot of places in the country seeing how it works here in this county also.
Oh, really? So we're sort of a role model in that sense.
We are. We have actually frequent visitors from other states looking at what we've done.
Interesting.
Right.
So there's been some positive effects with this program, I assume, in all this time. So, well, we're going to be talking about. We're going to be actually doing a safety inspection a little bit later, and it sounded like from your description that safety inspection is really key in this whole thing. What kinds of purposes does the safety inspection actually achieve?
The main purpose is to really just make sure that facilities have programs in place, they're following what's required of them to prevent accidents from occurring, and to handle their hazardous materials and handle hazardous waste properly. And what the safety inspections does is to make sure they're following these regulations, they're doing what's required, and they have good programs in place.
Good. Well, we had an opportunity to participate in a safety inspection, and we want to share that with you right now. Well, let's just take a look. Well, here we are on the campus of the Shell refinery here in Martinez, actually in the parking lot. I'm here with Maria Duazo, who is a hazmat specialist with the County Health Services, and we're going to go on a safety inspection of Shell today. But I understand before we actually do that, we have to put on certain clothes?
That's right. Anytime we enter a refinery or chemical company, we have some protective clothing to wear, flame retardant coveralls, hard hat, steel-toed shoes, gloves, just to name a few items.
Well, that sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Hope so.
How often do you do safety inspections on facilities such as this?
Well, for large facilities like this, we tend to come once a year. The state says that we can come every 3 years. The county, we decided every 2 years, but for a facility like this, 1 year, for the 4 different programs that we're going to look at today.
I understand that this facility is regulated by the Industrial Safety Ordinance. What does that really mean for this place?
Well, the Industrial Safety Ordinance says that we're going to come here and ensure that Shell uses the most current and safest technologies out there, and that they look into making sure that their employees can operate this facility safely.
Good, good. Well, what are we going to be doing on the safety check as we go through here?
Well, a lot of our inspection involves paperwork, and then we're going to verify the paperwork by doing a walkthrough around the facility.
A walkthrough around the facility. Well, okay, let's go.
All right. Well, when we have an inspection, we need to have a facility representative with us to provide information and to escort us around the plant. Today we have Mike Beck from Shell's Health and Safety Department.
Nice to meet you, Mike.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Hi.
So, Health and Safety Department, that's interesting. What? Tell me about that.
Well, we have a whole department here at Shell to make sure that our employees go home safe, our process runs properly, and we're always looking out for our neighbors as well.
That's good. And so you or someone of your department works with the hazmat team to do the safety inspection? Is that how that works?
Yeah, I'm the process safety management coordinator here, and part of my job is anytime the county comes in and wants to perform an inspection or an audit, I'm with them while they're out here.
Okay. Now, is it just you, or is it the other people of your department, or what?
Well, actually, depending on who they want to talk to, I can coordinate with any of the 800 employees out here, whoever they want to interview or talk to.
800 employees?
Yes,
That's
we
a lot.
have about 800 of them out here.
Surprising.
Yes.
It's a very big place since we've been driving around here.
Yes, it is.
What actually do you actually make here?
Well, as our name implies, we are an oil refinery, so we take oil from all over the world, but mostly from the central California Valley, the San Joaquin Valley, and we process it into consumer products like gasoline, jet fuel, diesel, and even asphalt.
Asphalt?
Yes, even asphalt for highways and freeways.
Really? I don't think I've seen Shell asphalt on the at the hardware store.
Well, no, it comes in little bigger trucks, but yes, we do make it.
Okay. So anything else that you produce here besides that?
Well, asphalt and the consumer products, we've been here since 1915. We were Shell's first continuously running plant. We operate 24 hours a day. We operate with 800 employees and about 800 acres out here, which is about the size of Golden Gate Park.
Wow, that's really huge. And so you're in charge of the health and safety of this entire area.
Yeah, along with the department, yes, we make sure that everything runs well and all the oil and gas stay in the pipes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So I think that facilities like this have a lot of chemicals involved in what they're doing. How do you know what kind of chemicals are actually here, and how do you actually verify the chemicals?
Well, one of the programs we implement is the 2185, or business plan program. Shell has to give us an inventory every year of the chemicals that are here at the facility. We have those in our computer that we take on an inspection, and we would scroll through the inventory, and when we get to an item that's on the list, we would take a look at that container, make sure that the container says, yeah, that's the chemical that's on the list, make sure that they have the amount that they say they do.
Interesting. And of course, plants like this do create some hazardous waste. How do you inspect those?
Well, for the hazardous waste generator program, that hazardous waste is also listed in our computer. We would scroll to it, and here we're at the hazardous waste area, and we would take a look at the drum or container. We want to make sure that it's labeled properly, and take a look, there's a label here. We want to make sure that the containers aren't leaking. We want to make
That's important.
Yeah, it's definitely important. We want to make sure that they're actually disposed of properly. When we do the paperwork, we look at manifests, and then when we go out in the field, we actually look at the containers. It looks like there's about 25 containers here. We would take a look in our computer and just kind of compare notes, what they've reported versus what's actually on site.
So there's a good accountability for all the drums and everything that you
Yes,
find
and the chemicals as well.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, let's go to the next place. Well, here we are in one of the conference rooms here at the Shell refinery, and looking at some of the massive paperwork I'm sure is involved in a safety inspection. Tell me a little bit about what you're looking for when you're actually doing a safety inspection.
All right, well, a significant part of our inspection or audit involves reviewing paperwork. And one of the things we would look at is the annual inventory that's submitted. Shell has a large inventory that they submit, and we would flip through the paperwork. After we review the chemicals that they have and compare it to the inventory, we would move to the emergency response plan. They have to have documented procedures on how to handle different emergencies, and we would review that. Then they have standard operating procedures. Another program that we implement goes over standard operating procedures, and there's a whole binder, just a number of binders actually, just for that. Then we also review hazardous waste manifests. We have a couple of hazardous waste manifests here, and we want to make sure that the hazardous waste that is generated at this facility, as well as any other facility, is disposed of properly. So after that, we have a site map.
There's more?
Yes, there is a lot more actually. There is a site map that we document to make sure that the chemicals that are on the inventory are actually where they say they are. If they say they have a certain chemical in the west side of the plant, it's on the site map, and we would go verify through the walkthrough that what they have on paper actually reflects what's out in the field.
It's pretty complex.
It takes a long time sometimes.
Yeah, how long does it take? Just out of curiosity.
This facility can take at least 1 day, 2 days. If we do a full-blown audit, that takes weeks.
Really?
Yes.
And it's not just you doing this. I guess there's a whole team
Absolutely.
involved
yes,
in this.
There
Right,
is
right.
a number of people.
Yeah. Now it seems to me that all the employees have to be sort of on board with safety and health issues and so on like that. How do you know what kind of training the employees are actually getting, and how do you know that these trainings are effective?
One of the other elements that we inspect is the training program. And some facilities would actually have it documented in a large file. At this facility, it's actually on a computer that we're going to go look at the computer and make sure that employees on different levels are trained to whatever job specification that they have, and that they know how to handle spills or accidents, what to do in case of a plant upset, what to do in case of a fire, evacuation procedures, if there's any kind of special permit work, that they're trained in that as well.
is this like an annual training that they have to do, or is it monthly? How does this work?
There are annual requirements, sometimes monthly. It all depends on the facility.
It depends on what the facility is actually creating. In the case of a refinery, what would it be?
Well, there are things like confined spaces. There are things like welding, what we call hot work, just firefighting procedures, shutdown procedures. There are a lot of different procedures that we would just go over and review.
Okay, sure. Well, how do you actually know that this is being effective? As I mentioned before, you can see that they're doing the training, perhaps documentation of that, but how do you know that they're actually being effective?
Well, that's a good question. We would look for signatures on some written documentation, but the other part of the inspection is we would actually go and do some interviews with employees. During a CalARP audit, 15 to 20% of the employees are actually interviewed. For the Haz Waste or business plan programs, we would do a random 2 or 3, and when we get a feel that it looks like things are what we expect them to be, then we can conclude that part of it.
Oh, that's interesting. So you actually have a chance to interview some of the employees.
Right. We'll ask them what work
find out
they're
what
doing, and well, if the electricity was to go off, what would you do? If the power stopped, what would you do? That sort of thing.
And so theoretically, if they're trained in this, then they should be able to give you the right answers. Is that basically it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. What other kinds of trainings does your office actually give trainings, or is it up to the businesses to actually give the trainings?
It's up to the facilities to give the trainings, and we verify that they did occur. And there are some elements that we look for, and we just make sure that they've covered them.
Do you provide them any resources at all in terms for the training at all?
The
your
facilities.
office.
For actually filling out the business plan, we do an annual training. But other than that, we rely on the facilities to make sure that the training occurs.
Well, sounds to me like it's a fairly thorough kind of audit that you do. So appreciate that.
All right.
Well, here we are. We're almost at the end of our safety inspection with Maria, and it's been an interesting time. Learned an awful lot about all the regulations that you have to go through. And we've been really talking about the Industrial Safety Ordinance here, haven't we?
Yes.
That you have to do. Now, is Shell the only one that you have to do this on?
No, actually, the Industrial Safety Ordinance covers 8 facilities in the county. 6 of them are unincorporated. That would be Shell, like we're here, Tesoro, the 2 air products plants. There's one here at Shell, and there's one at Tesoro as well. And then there's the General Chemical Bay Point Works. Then the city of Richmond also has 2 facilities. That would be Chevron Texaco and the General Chemical Richmond Works.
Well, so you must have a big hazmat team to actually cover all these facilities.
Yeah, we have a number of people that would do inspections from the county.
Okay. So say you go back to your office with all the material that you've gathered here. What happens if you actually do find a deficiency or some sort of violation? What happens then?
Well, it depends on the size of the violation or the deficiency. If there's something that we think needs to be corrected immediately, then we would request that it be taken care of either before we leave or immediately thereafter and send us documentation. A lot of times there's a paperwork deficiency, and we say within 30 days. And then for the audits or the deficiencies, we can negotiate the amount of time it takes depending on the paperwork that needs to be filled out when we need that information. It's an ongoing process, and we work with the facility on a regular basis to try and get what we're looking for to an agreement.
I see. So you can actually find a violation as you're doing the inspection.
That's part of the reason of doing the inspection is to see if what they actually say they're doing is actually happening.
So when we say program deficiency, that may indicate maybe inadequate training or something like that. Is that what we're talking about?
Or that maybe they said they were going to implement some kind of technology, but they haven't done so yet to make things run a little safer, and we'll ask them for the timeline as to when that's going to occur.
Okay.
Or something like if a label's not filled out correctly, then that's one of the things we look for.
Okay. So say it's a serious violation or a deficiency and they don't do anything about it, or any of the companies actually we've talked about, can you actually shut the place down? I mean, what kind of teeth do you have?
Well, we can actually refer the information to the district attorney.
I see.
There's a process you go through, documentation with a letter, a timeline to comply, and then ultimately we can go to the district attorney.
I see. Interesting. So what do you do with all this information that you actually gather? Can the public have access to this? What happens to it?
Well, we generate an inspection report. We leave a copy with the facility, and it's public record through the Community Right to Know Act and the Freedom of Information Act. They would just make an appointment with our office and ask to see the file to any facility, not just an Industrial Safety Ordinance facility, but your local gas station or dry cleaner, chemical company that maybe is in your neighborhood. You can go ahead and come into our office and take a look at the files and see what chemicals they actually store, what their training program is, and their emergency response procedures.
So the public has access to it by actually coming to your office. Is this online or anything?
It is online as well, and for the Industrial Safety Ordinance, actually after every audit, the general public is invited to comment on the audit findings, and there's usually information in the newspaper or online to find out when these meetings are held to comment on the findings through the Industrial Safety Ordinance.
Well, that's good. Does a person have to actually be there? Can they send a letter or?
Oh, we accept comments in writing as well. There are local areas. If you can't come to our office for the Industrial Safety Ordinance facilities, there are plans at the local libraries to refer to as well.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So what we want to do is watch the newspapers and perhaps some of the TV announcements and so on.
Yes, and I believe they're also going to give us the phone numbers and websites on this program.
Yes, we're going to be doing that a little bit later. So now, how does your office follow up on all of this?
Well, for the Industrial Safety Ordinance issues, they're actually in touch with the facility on a very regular basis. We would follow up by looking for the documentation that we requested, make sure it's submitted, and if not, generate a letter or come in person to look for the information that we need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, then that's when you take it to higher ups.
That's right. We would refer it to, it would go up the chain of command to my boss and then determine if it needs to go to the district attorney. But usually we work with the facility before that happens.
Sure, that makes sense. All right, thank you, Maria. Appreciate it, and thanks for touring us around. All right. Well, that certainly was an experience, and it's great to know that the Industrial Safety Ordinance is out there and that the hazardous materials programs are working to keep Contra Costa safe, as well as all of us. Back to our studio guests, Dr. Walker and Randy Sawyer. We just saw what an inspection looks like. Is there anything that wasn't covered that you think the public ought to know about?
Well, one of the things I think I more want to emphasize that these programs are also, there's a big element for the public right to know information,
Mm-hmm.
that they have the right to know what the facilities are handling, what chemicals are there, and they also have a right to know what programs they have in place to prevent accidents from happening. And they can also participate in this process, and where they can look at how we're auditing the facilities, they can have input in the process, and we encourage them to participate in our public comment periods, and also when we have public meetings, so they come and voice their concerns and what they would like to know, and and have input in the whole overall process too.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Walker,
It's really important for the public to be involved in the safety measures that we're trying to carry out. It's important that they're aware of what inspections are going on, what facilities are in their neighborhoods, and most importantly, what to do in the event of a hazardous materials release or refinery fire, because we do have protective measures that we advise them to do in those events and ways that they can get information about those events. And we're going to be sharing those at the end of the program.
Well, tell me more about, we are going to share some, but how does an individual get to know a little more about all these things?
Well, there's a number of avenues actually. They can participate. They can get on our list of people we send letters and information to about. We'll be glad to send them to them. There's also the Hazardous Materials Commission. They can participate in that process. We have a hazardous material ombudsperson that they can also work with. So there's a number of avenues that people can actually participate in this process.
Part of the Industrial Safety Ordinance was to establish the position of a hazardous materials ombudsman who is available to provide information on the full range of programs that we use to carry out these safety measures.
Good. Well, thank you, Dr. Walker and Randy, for being on the show. Appreciate all the information. And that's all the time we have for today's show. Once again, we encourage you to take a look at the audit findings and to voice your concerns. I'm going to give you some phone numbers where you can do just that. To view the safety plans of the facilities covered under the Industrial Safety Ordinance, call the Hazardous Materials Programs. They can make you an appointment to come in and review the plans or can refer you to a location closer to your home. They can also answer your questions about the Industrial Safety Ordinance and the Hazardous Materials Programs. Their phone number is 925-646-2286. Once again, that's 925-646-2286. The Hazardous Materials Programs also have a website where you can get a lot of information about the hazmat programs, the Industrial Safety Ordinance, and other environmental issues. That website is cchealth.org/groups/hazmat. That's spelled HAZMAT. Once again, the website is cchealth.org/groups/hazmat. The Hazardous Materials Ombudsman we talked about earlier, who is an independent and does independent and impartial investigations and can make recommendations for resolving your concerns about the hazardous materials programs. You can call him with questions and concerns about the hazmat programs or other environmental or health issues concerning hazardous materials. The Hazardous Materials Ombudsman's toll-free line is 1-877-662-8376. Once again, that's 1-877-662-8376, and that's toll-free. And if you want to talk to us, feel free to give us a call with your questions or comments about our show. Our number is 925-313-6817. Well, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next time on Get Ready, Get Healthy.